Have you ever had a moment where life came down your street, backed up, ran you over, and sat on your chest, and you wondered, how am I ever going to get up?
Mhm. Would you risk being a little vulnerable and sharing that story? Today's topic, from healing to wealth, the power of vulnerable storytelling.
Hey, Tria, how are you doing?
I am doing awesome, excited for our topic today.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Influencers Journey Show. My name is Suzanne Hart, and as you know, I'm sitting down with my girl, Taria Hodge. The big question is this: how does the average entrepreneur like us, who started with limited time, zero marketing budget, and little to no presence on the internet, get their authentic message into the marketplace and become a person of influence?
And what skills must you learn? And most importantly, who are you required to become to magnetically attract your divine client and build your loyal following? Welcome, Suzanne. I'm so excited to sit down and talk about this topic. We are in the midst of our Unleash the Power of Your Story launch. And when we do our launch, we have the wonderful opportunity to sit and talk about this thing called storytelling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is such a fun topic. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart because storytelling not only changed my life, but changed my business. And people might be wondering, how did it do that? It totally, one, but built my confidence,
Mhm.
opened me up and allowed me to be vulnerable, and really just gave me a way to connect, not to one person, but to many people.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, I absolutely love it. And I'm gonna tell you, for our super achievers out there, who this is the first time hearing my story around storytelling, I was that person who didn't believe that you needed to tell stories. I was always the person, let's stick to the facts. There's nothing personal here to see. This is what you need to do. Let's stick to the training. But it wasn't until I learned the power of storytelling and how to use it in my business, things began to shift for me. So yeah, I'm really excited to be able to unpack this.
Oh, Tria, I remember the first time my speaking coach told me I needed to tell my story. Now, like you, I was content girl. When my content was locked and loaded, I could engage an audience with great content. But he told me that I was missing for my presentation. I was like, what do you mean I'm missing? And he
Mhm.
said, they don't know you. They need to know you. They need to know the journey of where you started to and how did you get here. They need that story. And I don't know about you, but I'm the person that was told, don't tell anybody your business.
Yeah.
What happens in my home stays in my home. And I lived by that mantra. And he wanted me to share some stuff. And I'll never forget that when I did, because it felt like the audience leaned in and stopped breathing. They were so focused on what I was saying. All the content, all the great content in the world never had that effect. And it was when I left the stage and people started coming up to me, telling me what an impact my story had had on them, how much hope it had given them. Oh my gosh, how relieved they were to hear I had struggled the same way they were struggling, that I got what stories do. And, we're really going to unpack why, the healing of your own story and using it to serve others is one of the secrets to great speaking and storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely love it. So are you ready to jump in?
I am ready. So let's welcome the people. All right, everyone. So as you jump on, hello, please let us know who you are and where you're joining us from. Let us know who you serve and what you do while you're living. What's that thing you are absolutely passionate about? Why do you do it? How do you want to impact people? And what brought you out tonight? What questions do you have about this topic? Are you a speaker? Do you like telling stories? Do you not speak at all? Are you definitely afraid of speaking? We can relate to all of it. If you're listening to the replay, please hashtag replay and do the same. Let us know what you do while you're living, who you are, where do you live, who do you serve, and what brought you out tonight. We're going to ask you to light up the comments section. Let us know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, how things are impacting you.
Yeah. And also, if this is your first time joining Suzanne and I on the Influencers Journey Show, do us a favor, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below the video. That way you can subscribe to our channels and you get notifications every time we have one of these conversations and bring to you some great insights. So go ahead, hit the subscribe button so you could get your notifications and be a part of our community. And then also, do us another favor. Go ahead and share this channel with another super achiever, because chances are, if you are enjoying conversations such as the one we are about to have, then I guarantee you probably know 5 other people who would like to be in the room. So don't be stingy. Go ahead and share our channel with your super achiever friends.
All right. Well, are you ready to get this party started?
I'm ready, locked and loaded.
Are you ready for this conversation?
Yeah.
Are you guys who are listening ready for this conversation? So if you're just joining us, welcome back to the Influencers Journey Show. My name is Suzanne Hart. I am here with my partner in crime, Taria Hodge. And our topic today is from healing to wealth, the power of vulnerable storytelling. Think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Suzanne, I want to open up by sharing one of the keywords that's standing out for me is the word vulnerability. And so one of the questions we ask is that if you had a moment where life came down your street, rolled you over and sat on your chest, would you be willing to share that story? And I remember when I had that moment. Now, I'm going to share this with our super achievers. You see, what happens is most people have those moments in private. So you have the option to share whether you are, or think about whether you want to share that moment or not. My moment happened publicly. So I'm just going to go ahead and let our super achievers who don't know, it happened to me when I was on our freedom retreat and we went on the zip line. And I had one of the most challenging times where fear took over and my true self showed up and
Oh,
how
yeah.
I act or behave when I am sitting in a place of fear. And let me just say this, it was not a pretty moment. I actually ended up going back and apologizing to everyone who was in the tree with me because I was such an unhappy and disgruntled character. But here's the thing that I learned coming through that experience with your help, of course. You helped me to unpack that story and use it as one of the catalysts to expand on my conversation in my business as well as social media. So why is it that vulnerability and storytelling gives us the ability to create deeper connections with our audience?
Well, I want you to think, Sharia, about, those people who you think are perfect,
That
right?
would be
Now,
me.
now
Walking around
perfection,
thinking I'm perfect.
right? So perfection, I mean, is all over social media, right? It's everywhere. My life is perfect. I have the perfect life. I drive the perfect car. I do the perfect things. That is the mantra of most platforms on social media. And then you meet those few people who aren't doing the perfect selfies, but they're real. Now,
Mhm.
what's the difference when you meet the person who's perfect and the person who's telling it like it is?
Mhm.
What's the difference?
Well, when you meet the person who's trying to be perfect or pretend that everything is perfect, you kind of get that false sense of self of them. You really don't know who you're. Are you real? Is this who you are every single day at every single moment? Hard to believe because I know I'm a hot mess. And so therefore there's no connection. But the person who's willing to tell it like it is, you're able to identify better. You're like, girl, yeah, man, shoot, I had a moment like that last week, or this happened to me. So it's definitely a way to build and relate more.
Yeah, the saying "misery loves company" is a true saying, because when we meet someone who's looks perfect and looks too good to be true, that's what we're thinking. They're too good to be true, and we're also thinking, I can't relate,
Mhm.
because privately we know our lives are a little messy, a little upside down, filled with failure, frustrations, and all sorts of things. When you meet someone who is telling you a true story and they're sharing their vulnerabilities, they're sharing their challenges, they're sharing their frustrations, their failures we connect in those places.
Mhm.
And if they tell you how they overcome it, we're suddenly inspired, because none of us wants to feel alone in our misery. But what we do is we hide it. We don't talk about it. Why? Because society says you don't talk about it. You walk into the world making everybody think everything is okay and everything's perfect. When we meet those people that are willing to risk sharing the truth, there's something about them that stops us.
Mm.
And we connect to them because in some way they're giving us permission
Right.
to, one, look at our own stuff, and two, possibly connect and share our stuff. That's why it works.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And it's so true because like I said, my unfortunately that moment happened around others and not just any old random people. It actually happened to me around people who were clients, you know? And one of the things that I remember people saying to me was just like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that you could react that way, that you could show up that way. When I see you, you're always smiling. You know, you always give the sense that everything is okay. I didn't know that you could actually have a hard time or you could actually have a rough day." And
Oh,
that day was a very, very rough day.
well, it was interesting because part of the story that people don't know is I sent people ziplining, but I didn't go because I was building an exercise. And of course it's a day of cell phones. So I got a call, we're stuck in a tree, we'll be here for a while. Oh, not a good thing. I'm having my moment. And then I get a call, OMG, Sharia's not having a good time. I have never seen this side of her. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
oh. And so in that moment, we got to know a part of you
Right.
that no one had seen before. The part of you hidden,
Hmm.
the part of you that you carry a conversation about properly, probably, and the part of you that you're like, oh, I can't let people see me like this. This is like they're going to, beyond sweating, they're going to see me pissed off, angry, and not happy and smiling.
Right.
The cool thing was, and I want everyone to really get this, when we came back and Tree and I had a time to process it, we became more connected.
Hmm. Yeah.
When we had an opportunity to process what happened as a group, not only did the group become more connected, but other people had their own epiphanies and ahas and sharings and all those things. And suddenly it created community and connection,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And so, go ahead. I didn't want to cut across.
Well, I think that when we aren't sharing parts of ourselves, not only do people feel disconnected, but they don't feel like they have permission to be themselves. They don't feel they have permission to be vulnerable and share. And when you had that moment, and once we were able to process it, and you were able to openly put it in the space, other people said, oh, well, I can put some stuff in the space too. This is a safe place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was really cool about this is, like you said, the unpacking of it. And so one of the things that I realized that was holding me back, in my business was that I wasn't giving myself the opportunity to be vulnerable. And so here was the cool thing that came out of it. You actually helped me to build that in, to my program, to build it into my social media and build it into my program. So why is it that the messiest moments or the hardest times that we have in life inspire us to create such great content or create just some great programs, great ways to serve our community better?
Well, what's really interesting, Taria, is we are a community that loves heroes. There's not a place on the planet that you go that someone doesn't love a superhero or a hero in their life, right? And you see it on the interviews, who's your hero? Who's inspired you the most? And it's and the people that have inspired most of us aren't the people that will, oh, I just love the neighbor down the street because they have no problems at all. They just show up perfect. They're
Right.
just amazing. those aren't the people that inspire us. We're inspired by the people who have actually been through some stuff,
Right.
have grown, risen from the ashes, and lived to tell another story. We are inspired by people who are the underdogs who rose, the person who had a situation and they came through, because deep down, what it tells us is more is possible for us.
Mm-hmm.
It tells us that when things get difficult, we too can get past it. It tells us that life may knock you down, but the growth happens when you get back up. And so these are living examples of overcoming. These are living examples of transformation. These are living examples of surviving. And this is why it truly, truly works, Taria, is because when someone is thinking of hiring you, they're not thinking of hiring you because they have it all together.
Mm.
They're not thinking of hiring you because, oh my gosh, I just got this ace and there's nothing for me to learn. That's not the seat they're sitting in. They want to hire you because they're sitting in one of the seats that you sat in when you were struggling, when you felt upside down, when you felt lost, when everything fell apart, when you didn't know what to do, when your campaign went bust. They're sitting in those places. And if you're able to share with them, I remember the day when my campaign went bust. I remember when I had that massive failure and lost $25,000, true story, and had to overcome it. I remember, and suddenly they're like, oh, I'm not alone. This person gets me. Not only do they get me, but they see me. They will understand what I'm going through. And, seek to understand, then be understood.
Mm-hmm.
Covey. Nothing more someone wants is for someone to take the time to understand the
Yeah.
seat that they're sitting in, the pain that they're in, the struggles that they're in. And nothing more, we want nothing more than to have someone who can say, I can guide you. I can guide you through this. You're going to get through this. Oh my goodness. This is kind of normal if you're on a big journey. There's that saying that people who are up to big things have massive breakdowns because they need to have the breakthrough to become who they're destined to become. You want that person who's going to remind you of that. You want that person who's going to hold up the mirror and say, look how brilliant you are. I see you. This is just a season that you're going through. This is a phase that's necessary so you can get to the other side bigger, bolder, better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely love it. And like you said that one of the things that came to my mind is that I could show you better than I could tell you. And that's what it is that people really want. They want to be able to know that the person that they're locking arms with, the person that they see as a guide or the mentor, has really been in their shoes, and they could share
Yeah.
some things that will help them, get to the other side. So that's why stories are important. Like your content doesn't do that. And I had to learn that because like I said, I was that person. Stick to the training. There's nothing you need to see over here, nothing else you need to know. Just click and wave. Just click and wave, boys. But I found that there was such a huge disconnect, and what people were actually doing is saying that, she's really good. She knows a lot of stuff, but still sitting on the fence is like, is she the person to help me? And until I started to dig in, like I said, that story or that experience was a catalyst for me to really look at, the vulnerability aspect of it. And so as I started to unpack that, I was just like, whoa, this is what people really feel when they experience fear. Now, I experience fear in that way, but people also experience fear, on social media. They also experience
Uh-huh.
fear in their business, experience fear in marketing. So it was an absolutely great experience, for me to go through that.
As you're saying that, when I look back in high school and even as far back as elementary school, there are some teachers I just loved.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then there were some teachers that they were great, but I didn't have a relatedness to them. And the teachers I love were the teachers I got to know. And
Yeah.
not that they were inappropriate, but they had the best stories.
Yeah.
They had stories about themselves and places they'd been and things they'd done, and you know what they were like when they were like us. And what it made was they became relatable to me. They became real to me. They went from being a teacher to a person.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when you can go from whatever you do to who you truly are, and let people see the window into your heart, your soul, your belief system, and get to know you, it creates a different relationship. And so you can be the person with all the great content like everybody else, and people will shop around and say, yeah, let me go compare prices. Or you can be the person who people get to know, and even if they can't afford you now, they'll wait it out
Right.
because they'll choose you. And I can't tell you how many times I've had that happen where people are like, oh, I'm gonna wait. And we just opened the mastermind certification last night, and I can't believe how many people were like, I saw her speak,
Yeah.
and on what she shared and how she showed up and who she was, I knew I needed to work with her. That's what stories do. And I always open, as you know, with some big bang story. And when I say big bang story, I don't mean the stories like I didn't walk on water, I didn't jump out of a plane, I didn't, you know, get rolled around in a car and survive. I don't, my stories are really human. Like I didn't have enough money. I was too afraid to take the stage. Um, I struggled in my business. It didn't start off easy. I'm not an overnight success. Those are my stories. And and those are normal. However, people aren't talking about them. People are talking about, oh, I'm amazing. Oh, I always win. Look at me now.
Yeah, oh, as you said that, another thing popped out for me. And so I know that, there are probably super achievers out there who are saying, probably saying this to themselves. Like, I get it, stories are the way to go, but I don't have that story. And some people think, like you said, the story has to be the big earth-shattering moving story. No, it's not that. We all have something that we can share, so it doesn't have to be the rags to riches story, or the cheating death story, but we all have something that we can share with our audience that would allow us to build that connection of the people, where people could say, oh wow, that's me, that person gets it, I need to connect with that person.
As you say that, one of the best stories I heard was the story, he titled it Every Day is Sunday.
I
Right.
haven't heard that one.
And he told the story about when he was going out to work and working long hours, like many dads do, and spending very little time at home. And one day, he got to spend time with his daughter. And before she went to bed, she said, "Daddy, I wish that every day could be Sunday." Isn't that cute? I wish that every day could be Sunday because then I'd spend time with you. And he started his own business so that every day could be Sunday.
I love
And
that.
and it was this little tiny story, and he was talking about the power of entrepreneurship, the power of taking charge of your life, the power of doing things on your own terms. And he was talking about he does it because in his world, every day needs to be Sunday. He wants to spend quality time with his daughter. And it's such a tiny story, but it had so much in it. And how many of us can relate
Yeah.
where we have these beautiful people in our lives, and it's almost like we're ships passing in the night. Well, what if you don't have to pass in the night? He touched everybody, every parent in the audience, every busy person in the audience, everyone who had a dream and didn't have time in the audience. It was a 2-minute story.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So now we get to one of my favorite things, and I say this all the time. Like, working with you sometimes could feel like therapy.
Let's go digging.
So I didn't know. such therapy could occur in this thing called storytelling. Had I met you years ago, I'd have probably saved myself thousands of dollars and sitting on someone else's couch, right? But why is it, or how is it that healing occurs when we actually have the courage to tell our stories?
Well, first of all, I don't recommend you tell a story that you haven't done the work on. In other words, you haven't processed it and come out the other side, right? And all of us have those stories. All of us have the stories where, mine was I was physically exhausted, financially upside down, suffering in silence, and then quit my job and went on my entrepreneurial journey because I knew there was more in me. I knew I could do better. And I was in my mind, I was living small. However, although I'd come out the other side of it and I was okay, I still carried the little bit of shame about it,
Mm.
right? I still carried I don't want anybody to know that that's where I was. I still carried I don't want anybody to know that I couldn't manage my money or blah, 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 all the things. When I was invited and coached to tell my story, and I told it from the stage in Technicolor in all its truth for the first time, what I realized when I got off the stage, because when I got off the stage, I was like, I'm never doing that again. I feel naked. Everybody knows now. And people started coming up to me and saying, wow, that's me too.
Mhm.
I'm struggling like that, and you're such an inspiration to me. Oh my goodness, I remember when. And people started sharing my story. I realized that I was doing a service,
Mm.
not because I shared that I was financially upside down alone. It was because I shared I was financially upside down. I made a decision, and then I found the courage to do something different. Because what people want to know is that I'm where I am, I'm upside down, something's not working. But if I have the courage and the right guide, I can get to the other side. That's what my story told people. And when I shared it, Sharia, I had such a healing of my own shame.
Mhm.
I had, I was able to let go of my private judgment of myself.
Mhm.
I was able to stand and feel like, oh my goodness, this had a purpose. Look at me.
Yeah.
And look at how I can touch some lives just being myself and telling my little tiny story that I've been holding with such shame.
Yeah.
And in
It's
that moment,
empowering, isn't it?
yeah. And in that moment, I was healed. And I mean, I was healed in that my judgment of myself went away. Not only did my judgment of myself went away, my judgment of other people went away. Because when you judge yourself, you're going to look at someone else and go, I know you're like me, can't manage your money, right? And I'm judging. When I was able to see my humanity and see that everyone else was inspired by my humanity and my fight to get through it, it healed. I was like, okay. And the other part was it had me not look at my failings the same way.
Mhm.
I was suddenly like, okay, there's something in here for me. And I think what happens is when you heal from one story, and I don't mean healing is getting to the other side, but being able to look at it and see your own humanity and not judge yourself and use it for the greater good.
Mhm. Mhm.
David Campbell says we're all on the hero's journey. And the reason, and every movie is a hero's journey because we love heroes and we need to hear about those journeys because those journeys inspire us. That's what we're doing. And it creates such power and strength, but it also gives you confidence.
Yeah.
It gives you purpose. Like I can serve through my own messiness.
Mhm.
I don't have to be perfect to serve. I
Mhm.
don't even have to be like have all the answers and all the everything figuring out. I can serve by sharing my vulnerability and sharing how I got through something because there's somebody out there who's wondering, can I get through this?
And I think that that's the thing that I learned the most, because it was not the first time I actually heard the word healing attached to telling your story. And I remember the first time. So when I asked the question, well, how do I know what story to tell? And the person says, well, you have to be healed. And I was just like, I didn't understand what that means. Did I have to? And I actually literally thought that, oh, you mean I have to go to a therapist? I have to do all this psychological work. Well, it is psychological work, but I didn't have to, expend like thousands of dollars to get there. But I love the fact that you said that healing is is about taking a look and unpacking the story and saying, from this experience, what did I learn? Okay. And even if it's just one thing you learned, then that one thing that you learn can serve others.
It's teachable.
Yeah. And so to know that that's a gift that you could put out there, into the world to help others. So that was big for me, because I would have never thought that experience being stuck in a tree would have done that for me, but it gave me some really great areas to look at in my life. And like you said, I started to recognize it in myself, and then I was able to see it in others. And I said, oh, you know what? That's exactly what that person is challenged with. So let me go ahead and share with them, you know what? Me too. And then this is how, I was able to overcome this, or these are the things that I did, or this is the insight that I gained. Hopefully you'll be able to glean something from that. And it's so beautiful, because people really are looking for that.
I think it's Brene Brown's book, The Gift of Imperfection. And it's such a great title. Brene, love you, by the way. It's such a great title, The Gift of Imperfection. And think about it. When you and I are willing to be imperfect and share our imperfection, it is a gift to someone, right? Because how much time I remember, Sharia, really wondering why I was always so tired. Why was I losing weight? Why? And it was, I was working really hard to keep the blinders up and to show up perfect and to make sure I looked right and said the right thing. It took so much energy. And no one ever got to know the real Suzanne at that point. And so when I was able to let that go and show up with all my flaws, and lots, it was like, oh my gosh, I can survive this. This is cool. And then authentic Suzanne took the stage, and the stage in her life, and the stage. And I think that's the gift here, is that you get the opportunity to be authentic. And I know when people take our programs and spend time with us, they're like, how do you create so much intimacy so quickly in your groups? We show up as our authentic, vulnerable selves, and we go first. We tell our own stories. We share our own challenges, our own flaws. And then people are like, oh, this is a safe place. No one's going to judge me. Da, 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 da. Right?
Okay. All right. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and ask you, so what must one be willing to do to turn their messiest moment into a program?
Oh my goodness. I think you touched on it. One is you gotta look back. And one of the things about therapy is people spend a lot of time looking back. They're just like, and I remember when, that's why that happened, all these things. But in storytelling, the thing is, when you look back to be informed, and you look back to learn your lessons, and you look back, and the rule is that you can't blame.
I
It's
like
your
that.
story. So you're looking back, so you can't blame your mama. Mamas have a rough time. They get blamed for why everybody's in therapy. So does dads, right? Parents get a rough,
Parents, period.
right? This is why I'm in therapy. My parents were horrible. I remember someone saying, my parents were too good. That's why I'm in therapy. I'm like, okay, parents can't win. But the thing is that when you look back, you're looking back to learn about yourself, not to blame anybody. You have to give up blame, judgment, shame, anger, all those things. So you're looking back because there's a lesson there for you.
Mm.
And oftentimes we say, I believe that when you learn the lesson or you get access to the lesson, before you actually learn the lesson, you are going to have an aha moment. And that aha moment, we like to call it an epiphany. That moment where it's almost like someone turned your head and said, look there. And you went, oh, I've never seen that before. Oh my goodness, has that always been there? Yes, it has. And it's probably been in every other story that you have been telling or not telling. It's there. And so you see something about yourself that you may not have seen before, you may not have known before, you may not have been willing to accept before. But for the purpose of story, you have to accept it. The minute you accept it, Sharia, what becomes available, as you said, are these beautiful lessons. And sometimes there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, in my program there's 7 lessons. I had a lot of learning to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's lessons. And what we say is you take those lessons and you build processes and trainings around them. And what happens is the person who's stuck where you've been stuck, you give them your lessons and say, I can walk you out of here. So for people who are content creators, people who are in the service industry, people who even do something like you, social media. Social media is it's a very technical thing, but what we both know is behind technicality and gadgets and widgets and all the things you need to learn, there's a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
that human experience is often filled with fear. I can't, I'm not sure if I can, am I good enough? All those things. And there's a part of your program that should address that human experience. Those are the lessons you learned as you learned every gadget piece of knowledge you needed to know. That's what we're talking about. Content doesn't teach that. You do. Your stories do.
I love it. I love it.
So my question for you is, how has storytelling impacted social media, particularly? How you do it, how you feel about doing it? How's it changed it?
Oh my gosh, like I said before, I was the person that, let's just stick to the facts. And I'm just going back thinking about when I first started establishing my brand on social media. That's exactly what it was. It was content and how I could lay out the content beautifully. And when I say that, I don't know how many of our super achievers remember back in the day when you had an Instagram page and the Instagram page was decorated, you had your theme, you had your colors, and everything was just perfect. And like that was the goal, to have the perfect Instagram grid. Or you go to your social media and everything was just perfect. But the thing about it is no one really got the opportunity to know who I was. None of the things that I shared were about me. If I shared quotes, it was always somebody else's quotes. Like Turia was totally non-existent.
Mhm.
When I shared content was always in the how of what it
Mhm.
is you do. How do you do this on social media? How do you do that on social media? And of course, people gravitated, to it because some people really and truly want to know how to do things. But when I took a look at what does it really take, to build a business? What is it that separates me from everybody else who's putting out the same type of content? I realized that it was the storytelling is
Mhm.
about giving people the opportunity to know who I am, who's the person behind the brand, who's the person behind Social Media Saturdays, who's the person behind Influencers Journey Show, the two beautiful ladies here, and is to wrap, who we are, around our content.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I realized, social media has went from this place where people simply sought information to a place where now people are actually seeking relationships. So people
Mhm.
want to be able to know who's behind the brand, especially if you're a coach out there. How do I know if this is the person that I want to lock arms with to take me on the journey? And that's the question that literally a lot of people are asking. So the strategies aren't new, but how is this person, going through life? Is this the person that I want to model?
Yeah.
Can this person show me like my desired transformation. And I know you and I, we talk about that all the time. We have a joke about it. We read so many books, we look at so many different coaches out there. And some, some people, I'm not going to call any names because I don't want any shots to be fired and I don't want people to come after me. But, we're able to say, no, we don't want to do that because that person does not represent grace, ease, and flow.
Yeah.
Right? They show up.
Names just popped in my head.
Right. So I'm not going to call them. I'm just going to let that sit right there. But that's the power of social media, right? So we are able to say, you know what, if this is the transformation that you desire, might be the same transformation as that person, but you know what, if you want to be able to do it in a different way, then here's how we do it. And then social media becomes your storyboard. And I love to say that because this is where your true brand story lives. Not just your content, but this is where the story of your brand. And for some of you super achievers who hasn't gotten it yet, if you're a coach, you're a consultant, you are your brand, my dear. So this is where you show up in the best light and you attract your people, you attract your tribe to you. And so that's the power behind storytelling and social media.
Yeah, we're talking about authentic,
Mhm.
transparent, vulnerable, real communication. We're talking about letting people see you,
Yeah.
letting people know you. And they say we buy from who we know, like, and trust. Well, the question you have to ask yourself is what you're putting out allow people to know you? Do they get to like you? And do they have a sense that they can trust you? If I don't know you, I can't trust you. And one of those brands that we're talking about, where I was like, no, I don't want to run around with my hair on fire continuously working. That won't work for me. And I remember talking to a friend and he said, every time I see that, I'm like, there's just something missing for me. There's something missing for me. And not our person.
Yeah.
And to this person's credit, he's putting himself out there. We know who he is, what he stands for, so we all know it's a he now. What he stands for, all those things. I can clearly say, not my how, not my person.
Right.
But I can tell you people that I'm like, that's your person.
But that's
Have
the
you checked this
power.
person out?
I mean,
That's
but that's the
you.
power. That's the power of it right there. People have the opportunity to choose because some people actually want to do that. And if
Yeah.
that's your person, then that's your person. Okay. And I strongly believe this. Like, we have people that we are divinely appointed to serve. And
Yeah,
so
I
we
believe
don't
it
have
too.
to be anything other than ourselves to attract our people. And so I've spent years trying to do that, and it's a lot, and I'm tired. And truth be told, it didn't work for me. So now
It's not
I'm
going to work for anybody.
yeah, well, it works for some until they realize that it doesn't. And then but what I'm saying is I'm over here, in this space, and what I'm finding is the more I'm able to communicate that and show that, through my social media, people call and they say, I want to do what it is that you do. How is it that you do what you do? How do you make it work? And that's something that I never had before when I was just sharing the content. So it's more than just content. It's how can we give our audience the insight to who we truly are, the things that really matter to us, but still stand as the guide and the mentor for the transformation.
I love it. Well said. Well said. Oh my goodness. So Tria, tell them what they need to do.
Yes. So, like I said, we are in the midst of our kickoff for Unleash the Power of Your Story. And so we have a series of masterclasses that are coming up. And so if you have not reserved your seat for the Unleash the Power of Your Story masterclass, and this is our live masterclass, you could do so by going to utpmasterclasslive.com. So once again, that's utpmasterclasslive.com. You actually have 3 dates to choose from. So the first date will be today, Thursday, October the 12th, the next date, Saturday, October the 14th, and then the final day will be Monday, October the 17th. So we gave you 3 opportunities to go ahead and join us on the masterclass. So go ahead, utilize the power of the call to action and register, and we'd love to see you inside of the masterclass.
All right. So I'm going to tell them the quote of the day.
All right.
It is only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Brene Brown.
That's our girl.
Yeah. And that is true, right? And so when you go through Unleash the Power Story, we're going to show you how to explore that darkness, that moment that you may have thought it would never end, or you're very grateful that it would end, and how to discover the gifts, the lessons, the blessings, the light inside of that, so you can use it for your power and your power to touch, move, and inspire your audience. Because we believe that people are waiting for you, and people out there waiting for you. What are your last words, Tria? What you got?
Well, like you said, it's that one thing that we all have so much inside of us to share. And it's when we have the courage to explore those dark moments, because no one could have told me that the being stuck in the tree would have been such an impactful and meaningful part of my journey, but it has. And I had the right mentor that gave me the right skills to be able to unpack that and turn it to as a basis for my program and the things that I teach in my social media. And so, yeah, if we do the work, right, and we do the healing and we have the tools, then we will be able to find ways to take those deepest, darkest moments, the things that we think aren't, that doesn't matter to people, or the things that we don't want to share, we could turn them around to be the very thing that will be able to help others.
So until we meet again, know you are brilliant. Know you are oh so very special. And we do this work because the world is waiting. The world is waiting for your unique gifts. We will be back here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, stay blessed.
All right. Take care.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.